I'm just going to start talking a little bit about what AMMACH has been doing. It's been a very exciting 3 years. For those who don't know me, my name's JOANNE SUMMERSCALES. I'm the founder director of AMMACH, which stands for Anomalous Mind Management Abductee Contactee Helpline Project. And the AMMACH project really was founded as a way to create a resource, provide support for a very discrete group of people, but a very large group of people, and growing more and more by the day, who have had anomalous experiences. And I use that word simply because we really can't always say what those experiences are. The ET interaction, extra dimensional, and also we're talking about the military abductions known as my labs, and other things going on. Now, this group of people who have been coming forward and speaking to me and others around the country, it takes a huge deal of courage to pick up the phone. AMMACH runs a helpline, which is a dedicated helpline, which means people can leave a voicemail or text, or they can speak to me direct about their experiences, or arrange a Skype chat or a one-to-one interview. And most of you may know that that's what I do. I put interviews out there. And this is really for the dissemination of information and knowledge. I've had quite a lot of people from all over the world saying, because of what you've been doing, because of so-and-so's interview, I feel I can come forward. So this is wonderful that we're giving people a platform where they can feel safe and they don't feel subject to ridicule. People are always asking me if I believe everything I'm told. That's not necessarily the case, but what I do know for sure is everybody is profoundly affected by what they have perceived. And that's where I'm coming from. And I think we need to roll out our compassion and kindness a little bit more. We do need to bring keep critical thinking skills to the fore as well. That, of course, is important. However, let's have an open heart with all of that as well. If I give you a quick snapshot of the year, May to May, for AMMACH, a lot happened for those of you who may not know.
June 13th, 2013, the AMMACH project was the subject of a Channel 4 documentary, mockumentary, called Confessions of an Alien Abductee, first pitched by Off the Fence Productions in Bristol, England.
When I first agreed to do the documentary, it was because the company who came forward were absolutely assuring me of the integrity of the work. You know, you may call me naive, but I thought, well, hell, you know, let's just see where this goes. And it was interesting. It was a baptism of fire for me. And I'm tougher and stronger and still here, and so is AMMACH. But what came from that, it's absolutely extraordinary. I had 300 emails. I really thought I was going to get a real sort of bashing from the email side and the contacts as well. It couldn't have been further from the truth. It was the opposite. I had 300 emails of people saying, oh my goodness, thank goodness for you. Thank goodness for you putting your head above the parapet. Thank you. I don't feel so alone anymore. That was the gist of the majority of them. A lot of people were really needing to tell their story. And you know, last year I was also asked to do some television, which I didn't do. I was feeling a bit too raw, to be quite honest. But this year I did. And it was just a morning television program, you know, and really trying to trivialize it. And I said, really?
This Morning recently commissioned a one-poll supernatural survey. 1 in 3 people think they have seen UFO, with 1 in 25 admitting they believe they have actually been abducted by aliens. Samantha McDonald believes she has been not only abducted by extraterrestrial life, she's been attacked by what she believes is an alien life form.
Also joining us today is JOANNE SUMMERSCALES, a self-styled agony aunt who specialises in alien abductions. So welcome both.
Welcome.
Thank you very much indeed for being here. So you are the founder of AMMACH,
yes,
which is the Anomalous Mind Management Abductee Contactee Helpline.
Yes, it is. It's a project.
You're like Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call?
Yeah, do you know I had never thought about that, but that's a very good way of
So people who believe they have had an experience and have no one else to talk to you.
Well, they can do.
What do they say?
You're probably going to think I'm crazy, but I've had this experience, or I've had many experiences over my whole life, so have my family. So there's a whole range of things that they say, but I normally say I'm the last person to think you're crazy, but try me.
And do you believe everything that they say, or does that not really matter?
Well, I don't know if it matters or not, but the fact is that these people absolutely believe that there's something going on, that there is some kind of interaction, that their lives are deeply and profoundly impacted by it, and I believe that. So then I go on to talk to them about what it is that they've experienced, and nobody calls me. And, you know, it takes a lot of courage, let me just say that.
Greys.
Yeah.
And it took you a while to realise that they were actually working together.
Yes. Yes.
In what way?
Well,
what do they want with you?
Well, I asked them that at the time, believe it or not. I said, "What do you want with me? I'm on the spiritual path. Why? What do you want with me?" And they actually said that they'd come to take me and my family, and what they were actually after was my energy and my, I can say this, soul essence.
Soul
essence.
Oh, soul essence.
Yeah.
Why do they keep coming back to you then? Once they've sucked a bit out, why don't they go and get someone else who hasn't?
That's a very good question.
I said, really, if you can imagine being brutalised or raped, and I'm sorry to use such graphic descriptions, and then you went to tell somebody, and you tried to tell your loved one or your friends and your family, and you were laughed at or ridiculed or ostracised, well, how would you feel? That kind of is the impact that these experiences have. Not all experiences are negative or challenging. Some are deeply spiritually moving, and this is all a spiritual journey as I see it, but it is about, for me, the human being becoming sovereign again and not allowing others to make decisions for us. And this is a 360 view that I have of this subject. As I said to a Wall Street journalist who asked me the question about what this all means, and I said, well, you know, if 1% of what I'm saying is true, then it affects everything, the economy, our history, who we were, where we're going, and what all that means for us in our development. And it's really incredibly exciting. What we have to do is just move through this little bit and become accepting, because people like Hillary and the others that you'll hear today, Mike and Samantha, these guys are at the coalface of the experiences. We need to hear what these people have to say. How we deal with what they have to say afterwards is another matter. And people that are coming to speak to you later on this afternoon, the biolocation team, I am really excited by their work. They're using forensic dowsing, and they will explain all of that later. And they are finding evidence of ET in deep antiquity in all our ancient sites, but above and below our planet. That's really exciting stuff. I want to say a really big thank you to some of the people who have helped with AMMACH. At the moment, it's me driving AMMACH, driver behind it all, but people are feeding in. Adam's here somewhere, Adam Chatterton, he donated the cost of the flyers here today. Madeline Buchanan, who's on the door for me, bless her, she donated a projector. We've got Paul Harvey, who did the logo, which has been amazing. David and Alma Monroe up in Scotland, who've been watching my back and supporting me. Heather Cox, thank you very much with Michael for bringing in the first AMMACH support team. Thank you, guys. My A-team, those are just my angels and people around me who I couldn't be here without. So thank you for everybody, even for supporting this. And some of the people I want to reference who we have lost to the field. One is Lloyd Pine.
Star Child, for those people who don't know, is a skull, a real bone skull. Right. Perhaps you can fill us in on the beginnings.
The Star Child skull was found in about 1930 in Mexico. Teenage girl at the time, and she found it in a mine tunnel with there were two skeletons, of which the Star Child was the head of one and a normal human was the head of the other. She recovered the two skulls, brought them back, kept them her whole life, assuming, as anybody would in 1930, that what she called the strange or bizarre-looking one was just a human deformity. Everything about it was wrong in terms of. I'd also done a lot of human origins work relative to that, and so when they were asking around who in the field of alternative knowledge dealt with skulls, we have about 1,400 cubic centimeters of brain in our heads. An average person has about 1,400 cubic centimeters. A very small person, around 5 feet tall, is going to have more like 1,200 cubic centimeters. It's just a size thing. The star child is the size of a head that should have 1,200 cubic centimeters more.
Wow, I mean, that's huge.
1,600 cubic centimeters.
Wow.
It's 200 more than you and me. From 1,200 to 1,600, where the extra would come is that the star child has no frontal sinuses, it has very shallow eye sockets, and it has expanded parietals, and the bone is much thinner. But on the other hand, it also has a flattened rear of its head, so that would take away some. The star child bone is more like tooth enamel, which is the hardest bone in our body.
Yeah.
Its biochemistry is that of tooth enamel, the whole bone, all of it. That adds a lot to its hardness, but also there are fibers woven through the matrix of that bone, like rebar through concrete. These fibers they're very durable, they add to the unique and that toughness
Right,
of
and
it.
what is the dating on both skulls as far as you know?
Both skulls, we C14'd them, carbon 14'd them, dated, and both of them died about 900 years ago, maximum of 120 variations. Mitochondrial DNA is 16,569 base pairs, 16,569. Of those, it is very highly conserved, like FOXP2, but it has a little more room to play with variation and mutations. So humans have a maximum of 120 differences, 120. Neanderthal has 200. The new creature that's kind of like Neanderthal, Denisova, has 385 differences. So it's 120, 200, 385.
Yeah.
Star Child, 800 to 1,000.
Wow.
So it's just huge difference.
Maybe it's further out than the moon.
Certainly is least as far as the moon.
I think it's so exciting. I think it is just going to blow the lid off so much to do with our heritage,
It's going to
our
change
history,
a lot of things, I
and our
think,
potential.
And I don't know if people are familiar with him, the Star Child's skull. Fantastic work. And Dr. Roger Lear. Dr. Roger Lear was a podiatrist who worked with surgeons to remove implants. And I think by the time he died, which was only in March this year, he had removed something, I think it was about 16.
UFO hunter Dr. Roger Lear studies physical objects extracted from the body.
Pediatric surgeon for 41 years. I have performed research in a number of medical fields, and now I've applied my skills and science to the alien abduction physical evidence phenomena.
What you are seeing is the actual surgery which took place in February 2000.
Do you get a hold of it?
Dr. Lear supervised the procedure to remove the foreign object from Tim Cullen's arm. Although there was no original entry scar, a tiny metallic object was found under the skin.
Once the object was removed, we find two very surprising things. One is that there's absolutely no inflammatory response by the body to the object, which is quote-unquote impossible. And number two, we find that there's a large number of nerve cells there that really don't belong in that particular area, and these nerve cells are called proprioceptors.
Proprioceptors are an active living cluster of nerve endings. They're normally located in the hands and feet and respond to touch, temperature, and pressure. According to Dr. Lear, there is no medical explanation for them to be connected to a foreign piece of metal in the human body.
But on another case, we fortunately had a piece of equipment which was a radio frequency detector, and we actually detected two oscillating frequencies that were being emitted from the object. When they are removed, they don't do anything.
There's more than 10 of these operations. Each one has produced strange foreign objects
these
from the body.
objects contain metals which are not from this earth. The abundant amount of physical evidence available leads me to believe that this planet is being visited by intelligences from somewhere else. That is why I'm a UFO hunter.
Just going back to the Channel 4 documentary, it was called Confessions of an Alien Abductee. Once I heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, this is not looking good. It has been a very interesting journey. About AMMACH in the last sort of 2 to 3 months is that we have had unprecedented media interest. And it began Back in February and March, there was a little dribble of interest, and then in April, it took off big time. I was at that time doing 4 and 5, at least hour-long interviews a day for about 3 days during the end of April, and it's continued on and off since. It's been absolutely fascinating, and my contact up in Scotland, who is an ex-soldier, he's also ex-security services, he said to me in his fantastic Scottish accent, "Don't think this is for no reason. Do know that this is sanctioned, because you cannot have this much attention without it being allowed, if you like." You know, when people like Hillary come forward, what you're not seeing in the backstory is the health issues. A lot of the abductees have health issues, and these are quite severe. Not every single one may be related to the abduction experience, but it certainly does add to it. I spoke to a young man just yesterday who was telling me that he had radiation burns from an experience that he had a good few months back, and it's still showing now. With people like the biolocation team around, the reason I'm mentioning them again at this point is because they are training people to do this forensic dowsing. They're able to test whether you're an abductee, whether you're contacting them, and also they can test for the antiquity of contacts. They test for types of species of being, craft, and all the components thereof. So this is really exciting. So, and it's not difficult. I never thought I would be a dowser, but I am done the first part of their first course, and after this conference I'm going to be really doing some serious research with them all. That's just to say that mainstream media is picking up this interest in the national press about AMMACH and about the alien abduction, and what they're doing with it is making people scapegoats, and they're ridiculing them again. So we're not free of all of that, but it's just interesting to observe, telescope back and look at the global view of how this subject's being treated. So it is very interesting that AMMACH has had at least 26 to 30 media inquiries, some of them from quite serious areas as well. All right, tea time.
Here we go again.
You know, what we're going to do is to get, we never had an interest in dowsing, but forensic dowsing, you know, one's ex-Hollywood, one's ex-Helen. There's an ex-retired physicist who's now majorly doing research with them. He said, God, if I'd had this tool if I knew about this when I was working,
we have a Monday night with us.
We get together Monday night.
I can imagine. Oh, right, okay, yeah.
I heard about AMMACH in a TV program from my childhood. We have a lot of experience. Always I heard boys tell me, you know, from here, from another planet, which is when I moved into this country. When I moved into this country, I found out because in Cuba you don't have all the information on the internet. But when I come in here and look all my star sign and the experience in my childhood, I saw it's smashed all together. I come from Mars, my fair life. So there you go.
There you go. And so you're sort of since your childhood, you've always felt that you had something special about you, or whatever.
Everything, the way I am, my personality, all matched together. I'm a warrior. Yes, planet Mars is the planet of the war.
Is your family like sort of similar?
Yes, we all are involved in things. Yeah.
That's fine.
My two brother and me.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, that's great, thank you. The talk that's just happened, I was wondering what made his story so compelling you wanted to write a book about it.
Well, the fact is that when he called me initially, he had really just had a series of massive heart attacks and strokes, and he didn't think he was going to make it. And he just said, I've just seen some of your work on TV, I'd really like to talk to you about it. I'm always open to talking to people about it, and because he was in such a state, how could I not, as a compassionate human being, listen to this man? And he's a good sense of humour and all the rest of it, and as the story unfolded, I was absolutely astonished by the degree of experiences that he's had, and the fact that the last 20 years he has endured really horrendous persecution by Masonic bodies, peoples, and that he is still actually walking about is phenomenal. So
it is, yeah. Do you think that is anything related to maybe the trauma of one being in the army, but also the things you say that's why there's been so many?
The Masons are quite an incestuous group, and I think you upset one, you upset the whole.
Yeah.
And I think that's something like that maybe happened. Wherever he went, he was followed by horrendous harassment. So was his son.
It sounds like his whole family has sort of suffered quite a lot as a result.
Particularly him and his son had horrendous times, and he's not without a sense of humour, as I say, because you have to survive this. And as we worked together, as he agreed to do the book, because I just could hear the story, I thought it's too much for me to talk to him in one interview or two interviews. So I just thought we have to get this down as much as possible. And again, we're trying to understand, he's had lots of what I would call time slips, dimension slips, where, like he was explaining, that he thought it was Tuesday and it was actually still Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you know him. I interviewed Dave Hodreen of Birmingham UFO Group the other day, and I think he might have been talking about that exact story, because he's mentioned about how someone had lapsed and lost sort of 26 hours or something like that, which I guess was potentially the same story. I wasn't really sure.
I'm not sure that he lost 26 miles.
Oh,
on a journey over the Berwyn Mountain. And it's interesting that it's the Berwyn Mountain, because in, I think it was 74, the Berwyn Mountain was the location of an alleged UFO crash.
Wow.
So it's interesting, and he's always seen the UFO. It's like they've always been around.
That's really weird. Do you find that you have to be quite selective, really, with your work?
In a way, yes. You want to get a story out, but you hope that you will be able to help people tell a story. I kind of see myself as a facilitator in some way and a support.
Yeah.
Just thought Mike's story was compelling. Like, I think the work of the biolocation team is compelling.
Yeah, no, I was talking to them earlier.
Yeah, but they've already done some work and stuff. But I just think that someone who can withstand so much and still be on this planet deserves a medal.
Very impressive.
He also totally believed that the government knew all about this stuff. I mean, you can go and ask him and get it in his own words. But the moment he had that download, that's one of the things he knew for sure. As sure as eggs that the government knew and was somehow maybe complicit, just aware or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that he's been very traumatised by a lot of what he's been through, and he's at a time when he could have died, and he still hasn't been heard.
Yeah.
And I think that would be
if there's ever a reason to sort of put someone's words into a book or whatever,
I mean, we didn't have to do it. It was just, I thought, this
it was worth it.
There's a lot of work.
No, I can imagine. Yeah.
And his brain was all over the shop. It was a lot of very tough.
Because I noticed that a few moments throughout you sort of prompting him and stuff like that. With
the strokes as well.
Yeah.
Memory.
I can imagine that was one difficult as an author. But was there an element of almost you having to fill in the blanks for him? Is that fair?
It's difficult sometimes, especially after strokes, and it may not be to do with the stroke, it may be just because.
Well, I know it's partial memory, isn't it?
The incredible amount of stuff happen to you in your
he's got a lot of trouble staying on point, staying focused. And he's an extremely good musician. He's really quite gifted. He's a lead guitarist, and I think that is fantastic. That he was able to get some relief there. He loves it. So I think the dyslexia is part of it. He never had an education, never went to school. But I think 6 months at one point, and maybe a few months to another. He was little, and then he was older, so he didn't get a schooling. So this is all brand new to him. This is all a big effort for him. We can't lose sight of the effort. It's like having a learning disability.
And just one more thing, just more generally. Do you find that's sort of something which is consistent throughout the people that you work with? Do you have to help them? I realise it's a helpline, but is
No, everybody's different. Everybody's capability and ability to deal with their stories is different. Some people, like Mike, need a lot of input. He can't really write. But that's not his forte. So we spent. I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours we spent over the time.
No wonder you know the story so well.
It's me pulling my hair out.
Fair enough.
Because it's very frustrating. When you want to get on with it. But other people have, different experiences, and some are very upset by it. But by speaking about it, they get to an equilibrium point and are able to handle things better. And also it's the health issue. A lot of abductees have health issues. So that's something that we need to be aware of.
Is that because you sort of seem, I don't know, my impression is that you try to encourage a sort of a community and that everyone's together and stuff like that.
Well,
is that why?
Everyone's together. I just think that that we need to have some common ground of understanding, and there is no sort of framework in society which gives us this understanding. So we need to make it. It's like if there isn't a door of opportunity, then make one.
That's a great.
The UK's first support group for people who claim to have been abducted by aliens is holding its inaugural conference in Hastings next month. An array of speakers who claim to have been in contact with extraterrestrials will be at the event, which the organisers hope will allow people to share their experiences without being teased. Juliet Parkin has tonight's special report.
In France, like America, the flying saucer mystery makes headlines. A young Frenchman photographed this flying saucer, or is it?
For years, people have been fascinated by the paranormal, the extraterrestrial, the unexplained. Those who feel they've had some sort of dealings with aliens are sometimes referred to as contactees or abductees. One of them will be sharing her experience with others at a conference in Hastings.
They put you in a tank of green stuff or something, and you can breathe through it. Whoa, that's a real, what's it? And I've had several people say, have you had that? And I say, yes, I've had that. You're really frightened because they immerse you. Oh my God, I'm not going to, but you do.
Based in Hastings, JOANNE SUMMERSCALES describes herself as a knower. She's not had direct contact, but believes she may have witnessed the paranormal. 3 years ago, she set up a helpline and has been contacted by 1,500 people.
They sometimes will see beings, creatures, entities, people they don't recognise. Sometimes they look like people. They'll be aware of being taken into a craft.
Fact or fantasy, the subject has been a filmmaker's dream. Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters, featuring a UFO, was a massive box office success in the late 70s. But some feel it's only fueled ridicule.
It seems to draw in the incredulous, and I understand that. But however, what it does is cause massive isolation. It causes loss of confidence.
The conference is open to anyone, from abductees to non-believers. JOANNE just wants people to come with an open mind. Juliet Parkin, BBC South East Today, Hastings.
Thank you very much. I'll see you in about 15 minutes.